I remember going to the boards head first and I got winded. It felt like the air went out of the building. It was like so quiet. And the only thing you could hear was me doing like that sound you make when you get winded. And I was like, holy cow, that's a pretty eerie sound. And then the commotion started. My coach jumps over the board, tells me not to move because the stretcher's coming out. You just went in the board's head first. And I remember when they put me on the stretcher, my coach was holding my hand and I looked up at him and said,
Welcome to the Calgary Sessions. This is episode number 128. I'm your host, Jeff Humphreys. Before I get into it, if you like this episode or any other ones, please share it. Just trying to get more exposure around the show. Today's guest. I haven't told you this, obviously, but when I came up with this idea, your name was on my get-to list.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. So, back this up 127 episodes. I was looking through my phone and I was like, okay, who do I know that fits? I'm like, okay, there's probably 25 people. And then I just put it on the board. Here's all these names I want to get to. And you were on the board. So for Aaron, my buddy, our friend Aaron Bunting to do the intro and this cool event with Messler, and for you to be here today is a very synchronous moment. So please name and who you are.
Well, first of all, I just want to say I've been watching from afar and I've been hoping I would get an invite, so I'm stoked to be here. But my name is Gilmore Junio. I'm a three-time Olympic speed skater with Team Canada. Recently retired in 2022, and now a bit of in a transitional period. And even through that, I've held a lot of roles: public speaker, reality show personality. But yeah, just trying to figure out life in the second act. Currently working in HR consulting and going back to school as a student at Royal Roads.
Cool.
Yeah.
It's fascinating for me to hear that, right? It's like you and I have never crossed paths except this one moment at this event, right? And for me, for what I was thinking, I was like, well, there's the guy. That's the guy that I want. I'm like, oh shit, he's got a cool pin on too. Like, and it was just like click, 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 and then and then it's just like the simple ask, you want to come on the show? Like it's so weird how it all works.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's kind of what the beauty we were talking a bit earlier, just about the community here in Calgary. It's a small town where you can kind of get introduced to a lot of people through your network. Yep. And everyone here mostly is pretty friendly. Mm-hmm. So, it's just that connection and being able to meet other people and get involved in other people's projects. I think that's one of the cool parts about the city. And I was watching from afar. I was like, man, what do I need to do to get on the show?
Who knows this guy? But okay, so here's a question. I'll put you on the spot. Yeah. Why didn't you DM me?
Oh gosh, I'm not a DM guy.
Isn't that weird? Like, I'm like, dude, that's not a dig or anything. I love to understand the psyche behind why things happen. Yeah,
I mean, it's a bit interesting for me. I never like really considering myself like a celebrity or like a person of interest. Just a guy that skated in circles for a lot of years and did some pretty cool things. So like it seems a little maybe overzealous of me to like DM is like, hey, I want to be on your podcast. I have something valuable to say. And it's like, it's always more fun when it happens organically.
Sure. And, I agree.
I was hoping the day would come when I can, come on the show and chat with you. So
it's perfect, man. Yeah. It's cool how it all works. And you're right. Sure. Just because we're in this amazing city that has a small town vibe, you carry yourself in a certain way and so you're open to these ideas. And for whatever reason, I'm created this thing that invites people in. So it's just, it all works.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, stoked to be here.
Cool, man. I don't have to tell you how to get into this, so take it back as far as you want to go. I'm pumped to hear this story, so you go back as far as you want.
Where to even start? I guess
it's weird, right? Because somebody asked me that, I'd be like, things are kind of murky for me until a certain age, so I wouldn't know where to go.
Well, I guess we can kind of start. I've born in Calgary. From two Filipino immigrants and growing up in, South Calgary at the time in the early 90s, there weren't a lot of Filipino kids. So it's one of the only, minorities at my school and kind of just a way to get to, assimilate with my friends and kind of feel like I belonged, started playing hockey. And it was the same with my brother and, following his direction a bit.
Yeah.
Started playing hockey at 7 and loved it. You know,
what organization?
I was with Shaw Meadows at the time. So, we were playing, I would have played Buffs for everyone watching that gets that reference. But you know, that's where I kind of fell in love with the ice and skating. And, you know, my dad didn't really know how to develop a hockey player. So, you know, he saw I was a pretty bad skater when I first started playing hockey. And so put me in a ton of power skating lessons. It was pretty much like all we did in the summer was just like power skating. Rarely did we actually work on the skills portion. But yeah, it's like loved just being out on the ice with my friends and, you know, playing hockey. And, you know, fast forward to, you know, being 13 years old. I was still a pretty small guy at the time. I think at the time I was like 4'11", you know, $120. And, you know, one of the guys I was playing against, Tyler Myers, you know, I think he was probably like 6'3" at the time, playing for Bow Valley. And he popped me a couple times pretty good. And I guess I don't know if he's like fearing for my safety or whatnot. The summer of 2003. My dad saw an ad on the TV for like an identification camp at the Olympic Oval for speed skating. And, you know, that's kind of, you know, one of the amazing parts about this city is the Olympic legacy. Because, you know, had the Oval not been here, I probably wouldn't have ever even considered the sport. And, you know, going through all those power skating classes, I was always one of the best skaters on my team and had a natural stride. And so I was like, you know what, why not? It's dead of summer, nothing else to do.
Let's go to the Oval.
Yeah. And so I went to the Oval and kind of picked up the skates pretty naturally. Got used to it pretty quick. And there was a coach there that thought I had potential. You know, I picked up, like I said, picked up pretty naturally. So she encouraged me to join the club in the fall. And, you know, that fall, I met a lot of great people in the sport of speed skating. You know, it's a small sport. So everyone kind of, it's a pretty tight-knit family within it. And it was a pretty big contrast to what I had experienced in hockey. You know, hockey parents can get pretty loud, you know, if you're not getting the ice time or you don't pass to their kid or they get the puck. It was completely different when I got the speed skating. It's like I would go out and race some other kids that I would train with, and they were my teammates. And, you know, if I won, I'd get off the ice and their parent, like the other person's parents would come up to me and say, great race. Like, do you need anything? Here's some orange slices. Like, it was such a supportive community and, you know, really, you know, my dad and I just felt at home, you know, being at the rink every day. And my dad was volunteering during the races. And, you know, just, you know, through the years is developing so many great friendships and relationships through the sport. And it was just cool for me also to see like actual progress in my development. In hockey, it's a little bit, you know, ambiguous whether or not you make this team or not. It's kind of the only progress you see or you get scouted. But here it was like, I could see myself getting faster every day because the time was going down. I was lifting more weights. I was getting better technically. And that was just a cool, like, I got addicted to that, just like feeling of just like progress. And, you know, I was still just having fun, but it's crazy. Just like, I just think back, it just seemed to happen so fast. It's like, you know, made the Alberta team, made Canada Winter Games. A couple years later, just Team Canada. And, yeah, it was just a wild journey that it brought me through. And it's been with its ups and downs as well. Like I started off in short track. That was my short track speed skating, which if you don't like know the difference, short track is the one in the hockey rink. It's kind of like a roller derby. Long track's the, you know, head to head, you race the clock. So I was just a short tracker just because I was like a smaller guy. And, you know, I loved it.
That is like a roller derby. Like it's, when I was, I grew up playing hockey. And so when we go play at the Oval, we like do like beer league or pick up at the Oval, and one of the rinks was set up with all the pads. It was always just fascinating watching you guys just like hauling ass. Like I understand the context of speed and space on a rink. But that environment is like blows my mind.
But I think coming from hockey too, I was like, what was awesome about short track was the kind of like contact. And I was like super used to trying to get into spaces and make space. And so it's kind of lent myself to like being good at short track for a little bit. And, and I kind of mentioned earlier that like went to Canada Winter Games, and that was kind of my first experience of like elite competition. I was going against some of the best skaters in the world at the time, like at that competition for our age. And, Junior Worlds was kind of the big thing to do when you're under 19. You have to leave school, travel the world, and wear Canada on your chest. I was like, how awesome is that?
That's a thing.
Yeah, that's cool, super cool. And in my last year as a junior, I ended up crashing into those mats. Not those mats in particular, but we were at a rink in Quebec. I went in head first. My best friend caused this big crash, and I went in head first, fractured 2 vertebrae in my back, and that's why I went from short track to long track, because it was my last year junior. Really wanted to make the junior world team for something. And so I was like, hey, if I'm not gonna make the junior world team for short track, let's just transfer over to long track. I had some time to recover from the injury, and like
it's going.
From there, it was just kind of like, blink and you miss it, because it's like made that junior world team, made the national team, and just like the rest of it was just like kind of history after that, where you go to the Olympics and 2014 comes around, and
goes like, how did you, when you're kind of growing up and your dad's kind of exposing you to the rink, like, was it a thoughtful thing he did? Like, did he give you did he let you kind of pick like hockey to start with? Or do you think he was kind of like, were your peers doing it and he just kind of gave you access to it to like try it out?
Yeah, I think for him, like so when he immigrated from the Philippines, the only city the Canadian city he'd heard of was Winnipeg. And so we went from the Philippines to Winnipeg, and that's where he first got exposed to hockey. And he's a big Winnipeg Jets fan. And so he kind of like seen the sport, obviously being Canada is such a big thing. But when we started, like, he had no idea how to raise 2 boys that wanted to play hockey. So for him, and I think it was great for us, my brother and I, developing as athletes, is like, he was so hands off. He gave us every opportunity and tool for us to be successful. But at the same time, it's like, I love my dad, but he didn't know the nuances of the sport, how to get scouted. And the same in speed skating. He's like, okay, I'm going to put my kid in the sport. I don't know how to get him to the Olympics, but hopefully someone here does. And so he would just give us every opportunity and enabled us to do what my brother and I, what we just love to do, hockey and speed skating. And whether it be the early morning drives to the Oval or High River, back when I played hockey, and that's, so appreciative of my dad and his efforts to, give us sport. And even just like after church on Sundays, he volunteered at our local, rink to be the Zamboni driver. So he had the keys to the rink, to Zamboni the ice, and then my brother, and he doesn't know how to skate. So we just stand in the middle of the ice, pass my brother and I pucks when it's minus 16 outside on a Sunday morning. And my brother and I would just rip around, just trying to be better at hockey. So yeah, I mean, I love my dad.
That's like one of those real hockey stories, right?
Yeah.
As the key to the ring, you know what I mean? Like it's that story is just so Canadiana.
Yeah. And like I said, that's just where I fell in love with just being on the ice, because my dad had the key, he could just unlock it. And it was always unlocked for my brother and I to go down the rink. Not to mention just the kids in the neighborhood, they were always at the rink. So anytime I wanted to go down there was always a pickup, game to play. And even if there wasn't, just to rip around and shoot pucks with my brother, it was so much fun. And, 8-hour days on the rink when it's like minus 16 and
it's fine.
It goes by super quick.
When you, like speed skating at the time, like it was obviously the Oval was there, so speed skating was a thing. But so when I grew up playing hockey, there wasn't a lot of crossover of like hockey dudes going to speed skating. Like it was still a thing, but it was still kind of like not underground, but just outside the norm, right?
Yeah.
Once you got there, and like, was it you could skate, so you were good, so you can compete, that got your attention? And was it also the community around, or what was the hook?
Yeah, I think, the first thing was that I was good at it. I think, when you're that age and you kind of find something that, you have a natural ability at.
Yeah. Worked at though, right? Power skating.
Yeah, for sure. And when I got to sport, it was, skaters had been skating since they were 5-7 years old. And here I am, a bit of a, latecomer to the sport. And I was starting to keep up. Like every practice, I was getting better and getting closer and closer to these kids that were skating longer than me. So there's definitely a natural ability there of like, okay, I think I'm actually not half bad at this. You know, I can get around the turn. I'm not falling as much anymore. I'm figuring out the blades.
Yeah.
I can now follow these kids that are, you know, some of the best in the country and going to nationals. And I think also that chase too, like I said, that progress and that chase got addicted to, and just like trying to catch up, trying to go faster was super cool. But yeah, I mean, also the community was just a massive, massive thing where, you know, it felt like, I think that's my first, you know, real taste of what a real community was like, you know, like going when I went to high school, I went to the National Sports School, which is kind of like, you know, private school for like Olympic sports.
Yep.
And my team became like my second family in a way, where after school I would be going to, you know, one of my teammates' houses. Their mom would give me a snack. We'd hang out for a few hours, play some video games. And then we'd go to the Oval and skate for a few more hours. And then I go to bed, we wake up, meet the team at the Oval at 6 a.m. We train for 2 hours and then we go to school and just repeat that all again. And I loved those years. It was so much fun. I didn't have a car at the time, so I just took the train everywhere. And South Calgary to the Oval.
That's a hoof.
It's a long way, but like taking that hour train ride almost gave me more appreciation for everything, where it's just like, you know, I'm doing this for a reason. And it's like, it's not only just fun, but I get to hang out with really cool people that actually care about my development and becoming better. It was just like, those years were just like so much fun. And it's probably what kept me in it for so long and wanting to stay in the sport.
That sports school, it's a unique, I'm sure you felt very lucky to go there and like, just because, you know, so back in my day, there was no sports schools. Like, you know, I went to Mary's and like just traditional, like then everything started popping up for all these, but even today it's like a unique experience to go there. Like
no, absolutely. And it was a bit of a weird experience going to sports school. You know, it was super tight with all my friends in junior high. So it was a bit weird, like leaving them, you know, they were all go to Bishop O'Byrne, and for myself, you know, picking up and going to a high school with people I had just known for 3 years, opposed to 9 prior, was a bit of a different experience. But once you get there, it's like such a cool, experience to be a part of, where you have all these kids. You know, the school was only 150 students at the time. All these kids with the same kind of goal as you, is to hopefully go to the Olympics and take their sport as far as they can. And it was cool to kind of like see these people that some of them were like really good at their craft, and see what level of detail that they took to, you know, being good at their sport. And so that's what I really appreciated going there. Is not only was that portion of just seeing like excellence every day, and the legacy that is at the National Sports School with, you know, Olympians left, right, and center. Kyle Schufelt, one of them, he's the poster boy of it. And so that was a cool experience. But then the teachers also made it a great experience being at sports school, where they kind of all had sport backgrounds and understood all our pursuits and did everything they could so that we could have success and give us the flexibility within our school schedule. But yeah, it was definitely, it was an experience. You know?
Were you mindful of like watching the high performers? Like, you know, you're all high performers, but there's like the ones that really, you know, that achieve greatness.
Oh, yeah.
Were you really mindful to watch how they operate?
Absolutely. I think I've always been a person that's been inspired by greatness. And whenever, you know, I can look at someone and try to study what makes them great, I try to find lessons and apply it to myself. And sports school was no different. You know, you saw students that were away for, you know, 3 months at a time. And so the amount of work they would put into their schoolwork so they could get ahead and be on top of it, so that they could allow them to be free when they performed, was something that I like kind of noticed. And just the way that, you know, some of the student athletes would carry themselves around the school with such confidence and humility and just being such like nice people, was something I really picked up on when I was at the sports school. I mean, it definitely has its high school
It's high
experiences
school, man.
part of it.
Yeah.
But, that was something that I thought was really different about going to sports school and seeing just like that level of just like high performers all around you.
Yep.
You kind of helps you elevate to another level. And, that carried on with me for the rest of my life where, whatever team I joined or any on the World Cups or whatever, the Olympics, like you look around and you just see greatness and you want to, be at their level.
Yep.
And it's like, again, that chase and just want to be better. And so.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Did you, so when you're in high school, is the Olympic goal in your head? Like, is it, and is it all consuming or is it just kind of like you're a youngster kind of working towards something?
Yeah. It's funny because when my dad enrolled me into that identification camp, I immediately thought it was just like a tryout for the Olympics. I thought it was just like you go, you get scouted by a national team coach, and they kind of just put you on the fast path to be on the national team and to make the Olympic Games. Definitely wasn't like that. You have to go, pay your dues at the club level, provincial level, and make it to the national circuit. But I think it was always kind of in the back of my mind that the only place I'd ever seen the Olympic seen speed skating was at the Olympics.
Yep.
So the two were kind of, went hand in hand. Is that was always the end goal. But, it wasn't until, 2007 when I went to the Canada Games that it became to the forefront of my mind of like, I want to take this to the highest level. Before it was just like, being at the rinks, skating circles as fast as you can, being with your friends. That was super fun. But like the competition for me really opened my eyes of like what I can accomplish because I was going against some of the best in the world at the time. And
how old are you?
17 or 16.
So you're grade
11. Yeah.
11? Okay.
So yeah, that's that competition. And then in grade 11, it was like, I want to make junior worlds because junior worlds will put you on the junior national team, junior national team, the development team, to the national team, to the Olympic team. Right. So it's always kind of this like process of like stepping stones in my mind. So junior worlds being the first one was like, I was obsessed, maybe too much so at times. And, during some of the races, you grip onto that goal a little too hard, in a hockey analogy, you're gripping the stick too hard, which maybe didn't allow me to perform. But yeah, like I remember having my, the wallpaper of my laptop at the time was like Taipei 2009. And I would change it every year to wherever the host city of the junior worlds was. And so it was like, always just kind of right there.
Were you quiet about it? Like, did your family know that this was like a driving force behind you? Or were you pretty like?
I don't think I was. I want to say I was quiet about it. I definitely like let everyone know what my goals were. It definitely helped that like where I was in the program at the Oval at the time, it was all high performers. They want to take everything to the highest level anyway. So within my team, everyone wanted to go to junior worlds. And so it was kind of just like for myself, it's like everyone's goal. For my family, it took a little bit of adjusting too, because it's like, wow, my son wants to make this team that goes, travels the world. That took a bit of adjusting too, but yeah, I don't know if I was quiet about it. I definitely let everyone know. And, I was, this moment in our training sticks out to me immediately. We're doing hill sprints at Everworthy Park.
Like that
steep part.
Hill?
Yeah, that steep part. There's the one that just looks at you when you're looking at it from the north side. Yeah, we were running up it and legs full of lactic acid, lungs were burning. And I run by my coach and he says like, all I was saying underneath my breath was like, Taipei, 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 which, like I said, was where junior worlds were. And he's like, as I came down, he's like, what were you saying? I was like, oh, I think I was muttering like Taipei. He's like, you're a lunatic. That's crazy. But whatever you need to do to get through the session, right?
Go, man, go.
Yeah. And so yeah, I don't think I was ever shy about sharing my goals.
And realistic goals? Like, was it based off that event? Like, did you get a result or something? Or you could just see progress that you're like, I'm going to start catching these guys and it's on.
Yeah, I think, so Canada Games, it's like it's an under 19 competition. I went there as a 16-year-old and there was 19, 18, 17. And these guys had gone to the junior worlds already, competed, won medals. They're competing against the best in the country. This is my first time really skating against the best of the best. And I went in that first race and I was like, holy crap, I made it through this round. oh, I made it through this round again. I didn't actually get dropped by that much compared to what everyone thought I was going to lose by. And then, that was the first distance. And the second distance, which is the 500, which was my favorite distance. Made it through all the rounds, made it to the top final, ended up skating on live TV. That was a big thing, right?
For sure.
And as a 16-year-old, and, unfortunately I fell during that race. So it kind of ended pretty poorly with me. And, it was kind of just like that first taste of like what I could accomplish. And, it's funny, the next round, the 1,000 meter, I got eliminated pretty early. I don't know what happened. Maybe it got too cocky, whatever it may be. And I remember just being so upset about that result. And I had some friends try to console me, whatever. And I was just like quiet. And my coach came up to me. He's like, "Oh, Gil, why are you so mad about this result?" And I said it right away without any hesitation. I was like, because I'm not a D final skater. And for me, that was the first time I kind of said out loud how good I thought I could be. And that was kind of like a really, flip of the switch. And I came home from the competition, and that's when I made that wallpaper with the focus on making junior worlds. And I think just from then, it taught me just to hold myself at a higher standard. I always thought I, held myself at a pretty high standard, but I know that really showed me there was another level that I could take it. And so I'm so grateful for that experience of just, learning from losing. And because I think that's really what carried me through my career.
Yeah. Which that conversation I find fascinating, because especially athletes, like you'd lose way more than you win. Even if you're, the GOAT of whatever sport, you've lost more than you've ever won.
Yeah. And for speed skating, right, there's only one person that ever wins a race. And I say this, kind of as a joke, but definitely serious, is that as an athlete, when I got to the national team and World Cups, it's like you lose in front of hundreds and thousands of people. And you lose on a daily basis if you're not one person. Even if you get second place, you still kind of lost. And so in that, I kind of became comfortable with the idea of failure in a way. And I know a lot of people hate that word. And one of my good friends, Donovan, would hear me say that word. But you learn a lot. And that's kind of, again, that progress that I became addicted to, is like, I started looking at every day that I wasn't doing well as just like another opportunity to get better. And, I go back and forth. Does it, diminish the drive sometimes when you get so used to failing?
Right.
But at the same time, it's like, I just learned so much about myself through the whole experience, and being comfortable with being uncomfortable to learn. I think it's a big lesson that I've learned throughout the years, because of all that learning that I've done over the course of my life.
That's what Donovan would say, right?
Yeah, exactly.
He would say, and he said that at that Classroom Champions thing. Like as soon as you said that, I was like, I remember that.
Yeah, exactly. And like, I think that's what, how a lot of athletes think, is that like trying to remove yourself from such a negative word, the word failure, and try to, spin it in your mind as a positive thing.
Yeah.
In a way, like maybe athletes are a bit delusional in that sense. But at the same time, I think it's the only way to survive, high pressure situations like sport. And I think like in life, it's to have that bit of perspective
for sure
about every opportunity that you have. Because, you go through life thinking the next thing's going to kill you. It's a pretty tough road.
For sure. Yeah. I think that's why I love chatting with athletes, because that perspective, like it's just all these lessons that are learned through sport that are transferable into the real world, whatever that means, they're just, they make so much sense. Like they're so transferable.
And it's not to say it's like, even just after retiring, it's not the easiest thing to do. It takes some self-awareness and just a lot of perspective to keep that mentality going. But, just having done it so much, I think it gives me a bit of practice in it, and just being able to kind of remove myself from negative results.
Yep. So coming out of high school, what's got you going?
Yeah. So coming out of high school, again, like junior worlds was at the top of my mind. And, I was always one of the fastest kids in the country. I think when I was in 2008, I skated faster than the junior world record in the 500 meters. So people knew I was fast, but it was just, from 2007 to 2010, to that junior trials, 2008, like just wasn't able to, you know, put it together at our junior trials. So going 2009 is my last season as a junior. Now that I'm at the top, like the oldest, I'm in top 3. All I have to do is go to the competition pretty much, skate the way I can, even just a smidge of, what I can, and it should happen. 2 weeks before the competition, we're doing a training race. And like I said, one of my buddies tries to make this pass from 7th place to 4th place, which, if you don't know, it's a move. So he ended up taking out the whole race. I go into the boards head first, fractured 2 vertebrae. And I thought it was kind of all over there, but the opportunity was still there to make junior worlds for long track.
Yep. Sorry. Were you able to manage that? Like, how'd you deal with that scenario? Because listen, dude, I'm not, I've been putting some spots in sport that didn't work, right?
Yeah.
Some bad thing, bad luck, bad timing, whatever it is. And like, it's a thing.
Yeah. Do you know what's crazy is that I remember going to the boards head first and I got winded, and it felt like the air went out of the building. It was like so quiet. And the only thing you could hear was me doing like that sound you make when you get winded, like And I was like, holy cow, that's a pretty eerie sound. And then the commotion started. My coach jumps over the board, tells me not to move because the stretcher's coming out. You just went in the board's head first. And I remember when they put me on the stretcher, my coach was holding my hand, and I looked up at him and said, don't worry, I'm going to be back. It was the first thing that came across my mind. It's like, don't worry, I'm going to be back. And I think, like, I don't know what came over me then, but I still had such a strong conviction that I was going to make it happen. Something happened.
Yep. And
even just through that process of recovering, going to the hospital, like those words just kept rolling through my head. Like, I'm going to come back. People don't know, like, don't know what's coming. Like, I'm going to be back with a vengeance. And so in a weird way, it never wavered. Like that belief and conviction in that I was going to make it happen. And if anything, it made it stronger.
Yeah.
So came back, was committed to just that recovery process. And as soon as the doc gave me the green light, found some pair of skates from some teammates that had some old blades and some old boots. I would, hockey tape them, sock tape them so they fit properly. And just committed to this new process of being a long track speed skater instead.
Totally different sport. Like,
yes, they're in the same discipline.
Sure, same. Like, there's like big rink, little rinks, but like, just all of it is just
instead of racing against each other, you're now racing against the clock.
Yeah,
but at the core of it was still skating.
Yeah,
and I believed in my skating ability that I could do something good, something great.
Yep.
And if I just kind of put it together, listened, took every piece of knowledge that I could and applied it to this new endeavor that I was going on, that I could accomplish that goal of representing Canada at an international competition that season. So it kind of adjusted after I got injured, but that was still the core of the goal, was to make an international competition.
Yep.
And it was just things kind of fell in place. Became a pretty good sprinter right away. Like, things transferred over. I think a lot of the technical base I got from all those years in short track, can pay dividends, and ended up making that junior world team and went to Moscow that season to compete at the junior world championships. And, that was an experience in itself. And we go back to seeing greatness around you. There are some all-stars that were at that junior world championships, gold medal, future gold medalists and stuff like that. And that was just a cool experience just to kind of take it all in.
Do you go there with expectations to?
Not at all.
You're there for like mission accomplished. I've like got to this thing, but you kind of knew where you, like, pecking order of kind of where.
Yeah. Well, it's not that I really had knowledge of like where I would end up, but I think when you represent Canada at that competition, you have pretty high expectations.
Yeah.
Canada's always been a pretty good powerhouse in the world of speed skating, short track and long tracks. And so when you go there representing Canada, people kind of expect you to be a good skater and to do good things.
Yep.
We did a warm-up race before the Junior World Championships, and I think I was like 5th at that one or something like that. And I was like, oh, you know what? Gave me some confidence. I can maybe go to Junior Worlds, and if things call in line, win a medal. Didn't end up happening that way, but so I skated 2 distances there, 500 and 1,000. Yep. 500, that's the one I fell in. my best distance. And the 1,000 I went to, kind of no expectations. I ended up finishing 7th, which, was a good result for me, for sure. But that result actually got me onto the national team. It was just kind of how the, criteria is written.
Yep.
At any point that finishes in the top 8 gets an automatic nomination to the national team. And, it was definitely a storm of a time in 2009 where I was transitioning over from short track to long track, the Olympic, or 2010 now, that part. The Olympics were happening in Vancouver. It's kind of funny how it plays out is that before going to Junior Worlds, that's when the Vancouver Olympics were happening. And I remember even thinking in my head that might be my last season speed skating. Even if, I don't know what I'm going to do at Junior Worlds, but I might finish last, whatever, and that just might be the end of my speed skating career. But it was watching that 2010 Olympic Games, and in particular, the men's team pursuit, which had a person in it, Denny Morrison, amongst Lucas Mikowski and Matt Giroux. They beat the Americans. They won gold on home soil. And it was like seeing them skate around with that Canadian flag in a crowd that was just going nuts. I watched that and I was like, I can't quit. I got to do that. I got to go to the Olympics. That's what I want to do. I got to provide a medal moment for Canada. And then that just kind of became my goal. And that kind of reinvigorated me going to Junior Worlds because now it's like you have this extra badge of pride after watching your home country host an Olympics and do so well with winning all those gold medals. And just like that 2 weeks, I think really changed my life and my perspective because it's just like, medal after medal, you're celebrating every night and seeing John Montgomery drink that beer, the Sidney Crosby goal, the men's team pursuit, all those moments.
It was all of it.
It was just electric time to be a 19-year-old kid pursuing an Olympic sport. Yeah.
What was why were you thinking of shutting it down? What was your
I just thought that progress, when you kind of get there, you kind of get a good idea of where you're at. And not necessarily that I looked at the teams on kind of on both sides. It's like there's some heavy hitters on both short track and long track. And to dethrone Charles Hamblin, Jeremy Witherspoon, Olivier Jean, Mike Ireland, it's like, holy smokes, how am I supposed to do that as a 19-year-old? But when I got to long track, those guys, Jeremy, Mikey, who else? They ended up retiring. So it left a lot of vacant spots on the team. So that actually, when I got on the development team, they had to fill out the roster of who was going to train with the remaining veterans. So I talk about this moment of watching Denny skate around the oval with this Canadian flag, and then fast forward, 4 months later, and I got nominated to the same team as him. We started training together. And that was just a crazy experience because I'm like, dude, I watched your race. You're the guy.
This is not real.
And there's some other circumstances surrounding that whole situation, but I was like, no way. I don't think I would have got that opportunity had, Jeremy and those guys not retired. So, a bit of serendipitous. I look back at it as just being kind of in the right place at the right time, to be given an opportunity to train with the best guys and the best coaches. And talk about coming off that time, Vancouver, there's a lot more money into the system. So I was even given opportunities, finishing 5th at Canadian trials, to go to World Cups and, constantly be at training camps with these guys and be in situations where, again, going back, witnessing greatness around you, right? And, those guys were amazing. And I say those guys being, Denny, Jamie Gregg, Kyle Parrott, Steve Elm, all great speed skaters that kind of took me under their wing in a way and really helped me figure out what it meant to be on the national team. And, to go back to that original question, why I was going to quit skating, is because I didn't see that opportunity ever happening. And, 4 months later, it was
right there.
I had that opportunity and I wasn't going to let it go.
Which is, that's the frustrating thing with sport. It's just skill, timing, access, just so many variables to it.
Yeah, and that's one of the tough parts about being in speed skating or in kind of a niche sport, in any sport for sure, but and definitely like a niche sport where like you gotta hit, being in a time where there is funding, an opportunity. You know, I think of our team after the Sochi Olympics, and I have teammates who are just in the exact same position that I was in 2010. But they were never given the opportunity because funding got cut.
Yep.
And so they were finishing 5th at, the Canadian trials, but we only had money to send 4. And then, once they got to 4th place, we only had money to send 3. And then those training camps where we go down to Salt Lake City and, have these cool, experiences are now you're staying in town, biking the city, maybe a day trip to Canmore or going to Fernie or something like that. Yeah. And so, yes, to be an athlete and to develop as an athlete, it's a very, for lack of a better word, fragile experience. Which
then, we're totally different conversation, different time, but it kind of sets you up for after. Like you can handle so many situations now because you're able to adapt a lot quicker than most.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's one of the biggest things that came out of my speed skating career. Just being an athlete, it's just like how quickly you need to adapt. Yeah. Things change on a daily basis. Even just how you were feeling. Yeah. You have a plan. Oh, shoot, you can't do that plan. You got to adapt and make the best out of the situation. So, that adaptability is so crucial. But in a way, it does kind of get taken out of your hands when things like funding have to come into play. Yep.
So going towards 2014, is it like everything's firing for you? Like it's just like this?
Oh my gosh. Those were some of the best years of my life.
So how old are you? Like 20?
So yeah, I was 19 when I made the team, and then I was 23 at the Olympics. Okay. So yeah, those years were amazing. We had such a good team. It was weird because they put so many new guys and girls together to make a new team. But I think, credit to our coaches at the time, they really united us all under this one image of a diamond, which, he prefaced it day one where it's like, I'm going to call you group the Diamonds because, there's a lot of diamonds in the rough. And it's through a lot of pressure, a lot of heat, a lot of molding, shaping, honing that we're going to create diamonds out of all you. And we're going to be diamonds at the Olympic Games. And that was something that was like kind of so special in the way that everyone really bought into that. And when I say bought in, it's every morning we had a meeting to go over what was happening at practice, how we're going to do it, what our approach was. And no one came into those meetings being like, oh man, another team meeting. As everyone was there right on time, on the mats to listen to what coaches had to say. And like I say that's like special because I don't think I was on a team after that really operated like that.
At that level.
Yeah, at that level. Whether it was good or bad, whatever it may be. But I think that's what made that group really special. And it was just that idea of coming to training and everyone believed in that same vision. And it made it such a collaborative, place to be, even with just new teammates. And we all got to learn the ins and outs, the buttons to push for one another to get the best out of each other. And, I say this in the way that like, I think to be a good athlete, you have to give yourself to other people, the best of yourself to other people to get the best out of them so they give that to you, right? Yep. And that was just such in the DNA of that group of, 15 people. We're like, I couldn't lead 6 laps in a row, so Denny would lead them for me. But he couldn't, figure out the starts, so I would help him with that. And, the list goes on. There's Jamie Gregg, who's, a bit of a prickly person. He's not he's kind of cold, and I don't know if it's just cold, but he's an old man. Yep. So I think, what I provided to him was a little bit of youthfulness and that energy on days where he was kind of just like, oh no, I'm just the guy here right now. But, and then he would reciprocate by giving me some mentorship, and then him and his, now wife would let me hang out at their house and they cook me meals, and that group of people was just so much fun. Yeah, so much fun. And that atmosphere, helped me get better on a daily basis. I thought, when I was younger, I was getting better quick. But when I joined that team, it was just like boom, took off. Like that 4 months. It's funny. I went in that 4 months thinking, okay, I'm going to get 1 year national team, which is 1 year of funding. And then I'm going to get kicked off for no results and then send packing and go to university.
You had a plan.
Yeah, I had a plan. And then that 4 months, just learned so much, got quicker. September comes around and I make the World Cup team. And it was just like from there, it was just like fast pass, fast pass to just like every opportunity that I could have wanted at the time because I was just with people that gave me the best of themselves.
It's a perfect segue. As a youngster, like 20, like young, like 20, 21, 20, like those are, like we're babies. We know nothing. But you're experiencing like the pinnacle of this sport. You can't even wrap your head around it at the time, right? You're just like in the moment, moving. Yeah.
I mean, to think back, I was so naive.
Yeah.
I was just like looking at everything. It's just like, wow, this is so cool. Like the fact that I get to do this and be around these cool people and skate in circles and wear Canada on the back of my skin suit.
Badass.
And like it kind of just made it a lot easier at the time too. Because it was just like, you know what, I don't know what I'm going to get. Yeah. I could be faster, I could be slower, but who cares? I get to do this really cool thing.
Yeah.
And I had guys like Jamie and Denny to take off that pressure of performing from me. And I was able just to do my own thing and be kind of underneath the radar. And talk about just like being naive because I was just traveling the world, packing my bags.
Crazy, man.
And even my dad and my mom thought it was crazy.
Because I'm not a parent, but just from coming to Canada and like the whole story, like to then see you doing this, I'm sure is.
Yeah, and I don't know if they even really came around to that idea of even like seeing me on TV in the later years and seeing commercials of me and being at Petro-Canada's and stuff like that. I think they thought it was cool and they're definitely proud of me, but it was like, and I'm sure a lot of, Asian, first generation Asian kids can appreciate this. Is the first and foremost thing for them was stability and education. Everything that came after that was kind of, second.
Yeah.
So at the same time, like they just grilled me as if I was getting through my schoolwork, whatever. It's like, oh, you going to Germany? Do you have all your schoolwork and everything planned out? But yeah, I think it was for them as a bit of a crash course. But, once I made the national team and told them that, national team athletes get years of funding to put towards school and that they wouldn't have to pay for university, I think they kind of came around to that portion and were able, kind of let me do my thing as long as I was on the national team and getting those years of education. Yeah.
The first experience at a game? Does it live up to what you thought it would be, or is it a totally wild scenario?
It's really funny because, I think leading up to those Olympics, like our coach did a really good job of, even though it was my first Olympics, he's, set the stage for it really well and what to prepare for. And the one thing through those, 2010 to 2014 was that he was like, okay, every race from, 2012 to the Olympic trials had to be like, you got to approach it like it's going to be the Olympic Games. So in the sense that when I got to the Olympics, it felt like I was already practiced of handling pretty high stress situations.
Yep.
But nothing can prepare you for getting to the Olympics and seeing all the cameras and just the production that's around it. And I remember just like we landed in Sochi and we unlocked the doors to our dorm room or in our apartment. And you just see your name where it's like Gilmore Junio, Team Canada, roommate, Jamie Gregg. It's like, oh, things are getting real. But I think when it's really real is like when you got your suitcase of Team Canada gear and you start trying that on, you're like, holy smokes, this is something else. And, but yeah, and I think it definitely like lives up to that dream I had of when I was a kid watching the Olympics, where I remember walking into the Olympic Stadium. And we came in from kind of this underneath tunnel and we get, led around for what would have probably been an hour and a half of just like, this massive group of athletes all in their Olympic kits. You got to go to this place, then go to this place. And I kind of just got lost. I'm like, we're just gonna be walking for hours. And finally, I remember I was behind Jesse Lumsden in the whole big procession. And he's been in Olympic Games. And I remember we were walking, I just hear him go, "This is it." And I go, "What?" And we start walking up this ramp, and you just see all the camera flashes start going off. And I remember the announcer saying, and Team Canada. And the whole place just went so loud. And you just come up on the stage in the middle of the Olympic Stadium, and you're just like, holy smokes, this is real. And that was one of the cool things. I remember looking around, just everyone in their red.
Yeah.
And that was just such a cool, welcome to the show. That was the moment for me. It was like, welcome to the show. And, those Olympics were a big whirlwind, to say the least. But yeah, it was just to be able to live that out from my dreams as a kid was such a special moment.
So rare, right? Like,
yeah,
it's the show. It's the pinnacle of the sport, and it's just it doesn't happen. Well, I don't know what that the nonsense quote of like a pro hockey player is like 0.001%. I'm sure there's I'm sure there's an Olympic percentage of like it's so rare to get to these places.
Yeah, I think they give us the stat that like in the Canadian population, there's only like ever 5,000 Olympians at a time.
Yep.
So I'm not great at math, but you can extrapolate from that. So yeah, I think it takes some perspective just to like remove myself from it and realize what an accomplishment I did. It is hard sometimes when most of my friends are Olympians, and very accomplished ones at that. We're like, oh, pretty much everyone that I'm texting right now has gone to the Olympics. I guess it's not that cool of a thing to do.
It's so strange.
It's so bizarre. But I have great friends and family that, I'm just so proud of what I was able to accomplish during my years as a speed skater, and they pumped me up and let me know how special it is. But I think kind of when you get to that moment at every Olympics I went to, I always went to the opening ceremonies because that's such a special moment. And I know there's the whole performance side where I could have saved my legs by not walking. I did everything I could just to make sure I limited that damage, but I don't think in my mind that I could have passed up that opportunity just because it's, you never know if you're going to get it again. And I just like, being in that moment of being with some people that hadn't experienced it, throughout the games too, in the second games and third games, being able to experience with those teammates was a special thing as well. And just like such a cool opportunity.
Dude. So like, I'm one of those dudes that's not your Olympian buddies. So I'm like, fuck, this is cool. It's like, it's so unique. To go to 3 games. That's like, obviously I'm half decent. So 12 years. There's my math skills for you. Is it, did you know that was going to be the road? Like, did you know that you either had the talent or the drive or you're going to have the opportunity to go that's a long time.
Yeah. I had no idea I was going to skate for that long.
Is it year to year for you? Or is it like?
So after 2010, it became, the mission just to get to Sochi.
Yep.
And then after that, I think leading into that, I thought, I'm going to get to the Olympics and that'll be it. I'm going to retire as an Olympian. But then, like I said, you get addicted to that chasing that dream and progressing. And, coming off 2014, like I was getting pretty good. I had won World Cups. I was one of the best in the world. Putting myself in a position to be even called a medal hopeful, a medal contender at Sochi. So then, I went to the next season being like, okay, 4 years to Pyeongchang and that's going to be the one I'm going to win a medal at.
Yep.
And whether or not I knew I had the stuff was like, I had a idea that I was, pretty good just because of the results I was getting. And it definitely motivated me from year to year to like, I know how good I can be.
Yeah.
And so like, whether or not I got the result, it's like, just keep working. Like you can put yourself in that position to, be a threat to get on the podium. So I just kind of kept pushing myself through those years of, from 2014 to 2018, just being like, you got this to get back up to that level of being one of the best. 2016, I was top 3 in the world. So that was definitely motivating.
It helps.
And then, so that kind of gave me the fuel to get to 2018. because I believed in myself. But then after 2018 to 2022, especially through the pandemic, it was definitely year by year whether or not I was going to make it through. But I think there was an idea through those years of, a sense of service to the younger kids on the team at the time, where I had great mentors of Denny and I keep bringing them up, but Jamie, because I love those guys.
Yeah.
I felt like I had, that obligation to stick around and offer their knowledge and my knowledge to the next generation. So that's what kind of also motivated me through those years, was a kind of a different sense of purpose, along with just trying to be a good speed skater. But I think within Canada, I always knew I was one of the best skaters, so I could keep putting myself in those positions of making World Cup, making the Olympic team, whatever it may be. But yeah, I mean, one of the best advices I got leading into the 2014 was from Jesse Lumsden again, that said, no Olympics are the same. And I, being a naive kid, I thought like, come on, what do you mean? It's the Olympics. The Olympics are the Olympics. But it's amazing once you go through that process. Yeah, no two Olympics are the same. And each games was such a different experience for me in the sense of like motivation, purpose, drive, whatever it was. It was such a different time.
You couldn't plan for any of it, right? You had to get there to experience it and then just like feel it and see what it...
Absolutely. Like I think I had an idea of what I want to do every 4 years, right? But rarely did, think back, rarely did that, and where I ended up 4 years later was rarely what I had initially set out to do. So, it's just such a crazy 12 years of my life that I still look back at and think back like, what did I just experience?
Do you like that like when I have my own vision of how this looks for 12 years of dedication to actually do this, like it's like all consuming. Like, is there anything else? Is there anything outside of sport that like keeps you going during these years, or is it like so like dialed in?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think leading into 2014, I was still taking classes at the University of Calgary. And I think I would say that gave me a lot of like perspective and just allowed myself a space where I could remove myself from sport, where I could focus on something different. But after 2014, after like, I was getting good at speed skating, I got a bigger profile coming off those games after, that crazy story with Denny. And then it was kind of like, this is my full-time job. 2014 happened and I was able to get sponsors and get enough money that speed skating could become my full-time job and I could dedicate myself to it full-time. I say whether or not that, that was beneficial. I go back and forth on it because I do think trying to find something outside of it, outside of your passion or, your job is super important to give you perspective. And, I had other hobbies, picking up guitar or playing video games or just like hanging out with my friends outside of speed skating gave me some perspective. But yeah, I definitely like once I got in it, I was in it and everything kind of surrounded sport and planning speaking engagement, planning sponsors, planning vacations with my family. Like it all just kind of revolved around the speed skating schedule.
How old were you when you retired?
I was 32 when I announced my retirement. Yeah. So it's been 2 years now since.
So I'm catching you at a interesting time.
Yeah, very interesting time. It's been a bit of a roller coaster. Yeah.
That age, like, to retire, it's kind of an interesting age, right? Like so for me, I would say I kind of started getting my legs under me for like professionally at like 34.
Oh, so I still got some hope.
Wow. Dude, I have nothing figured out yet.
Yeah.
But like when I think about myself at that time in my life, like I was looking for, I wanted a better job. I wanted more responsibility. I wanted these things, right? Because I'd done the corporate thing for a while. At 32, retiring from your sport, like that decision, where's your head at?
Yeah. Well, when I retired, like the last 2 years of my career were super tough. Not only was there the pandemic, but body was catching up to me. What I used to be able to do with all the jumps and the training and everything, being able to handle that load was just diminishing. I started getting like the tendinosis in my knees and my ankles, and my back was just getting worse on a daily basis and removing me from the training environment. So, that was kind of tough, is kind of just realizing that, I do not have any more legs underneath me. I can't put myself through that. It just became harder and harder to put myself through that pain. And I said, okay, well, I guess this is the time to walk away from the sport. And yeah, it's tough, but at the same time, you kind of realize it when it's time to go.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people say, when it stops being fun is to walk away. Unfortunately, like I still found it very fun. But one of the fun parts with me was being really good.
Yeah.
And I was okay, I think, within the world setting.
Yeah.
But I wasn't really, really good anymore. And so, yeah, that was kind of a tough pill to swallow. But then I think in that transition, I had so many good, mentors come before me. Danny, Jamie, Jesse Lumsden, Patrick Chan was retired a couple of years before I did.
Yep.
And just getting their perspectives on how to approach the transition process was pretty valuable. And the Olympic Committee runs an amazing program to help athletes through that transitional time. But I think when you go through it yourself, as prepared as you can be and have all the great advice, it's a definitely thing that you got to experience yourself.
Yeah.
Where, there's days when I was, a bit lost in what I wanted to do. But I think I took that year from right after I retired, I took the next year to just kind of do nothing.
Cool.
Enjoy being at home, try to find something that I enjoyed and was passionate about, and try to just find myself again outside of sport. When you're tired, you kind of lose your identity.
Yeah.
For 19 years of my life, I was Gilmore the speed skater. And now you're Gilmore the former speed skater, or, and you're trying to find something else. And, and it's weird because nothing will ever kind of fire you up. I think that's the advice I've gotten, or maybe the realization that I've got. Because nothing's ever going to fire you up like sport and competition in that situation does. But it can get close, and you can still find, joy in what you do. So that's been a process of me trying to find that. And I'm still in that process right now where it's, I'm going back to school, trying to put the pieces together. I'm doing a degree in entrepreneurial management. So even a bit of like an athlete mindset there, where it's like, it's got to piece it together what you're passionate about, right? And apply yourself to it as I did when I was an athlete. So it's definitely a bit of an adjustment, from waking up to go work out to sitting in a computer chair and Excel sheets. But, I'm super fortunate now that I've found at least something where I'm at with, being an HR consultant, that I draw a lot of parallels to sport and has been a super great experience for me so far.
Dude, I find it, I've had a couple Olympians on here, and the transition piece is like, it's the thing that it always doesn't surprise me, but I'm just fascinated by it because it's, and I haven't been through it, but it sounds like it can be like tragic. Like it can really get you in a spot that's not good.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And there's definitely some tough days, right? Like, if I can just be super candid, it's like you go from being the guy to being kind of a guy amongst many. And, back in the day, going out with some friends, rolling up to national, they could use the cloud. It's like, this guy's on the Olympic team, let him in. And sometimes we would get in. Yeah. And now you kind of go there and you're like, guess I'll just go to the back of the line. Yeah. I'll see you in a couple hours. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely a bit of an adjustment. And, one of the tough parts is that you lose your community. Yeah. When, I've said that's been such a big part of it. You don't lose it, but you lose that frequency with it. They'll always be there, but when you're seeing them on a day-to-day basis and you're just sharing in this experience of pain and training and being involved in the process to win an Olympic medal, it's all encompassing and you're just in constant communication. So it's almost like, you leave this part of yourself behind and you're just expected to find a new path where you go from being at the top, the 99th percentile.
Fucking CEO, owner, like whatever,
Exactly.
whatever reference you want to make.
Exactly.
It's the top.
To now being, bottom of the ladder and starting to try to climb up again. And that's almost one of the top parts, is trying to motivate yourself to, like, I was at the top.
Yeah.
And I was, I got a lot of these great opportunities, and now I have to do it all over again over the course of what I made over 19 years. I got to do all over again.
Yeah.
Which, it is what it is. And it's, I don't think it's an experience that's unique to being an athlete, changing careers, a divorce, whatever it may be. It's probably, I want to say there's some similarities in that, but it's definitely an interesting process to go through.
Yeah, I think it's more normal than, and I mean normal for like every human, not just athletes.
100%.
To be like a lost soul at later in life.
Yeah.
Because I think what's like, this is now my experience in this like show environment and talking to all sorts of characters is like athlete, entrepreneur, whatever it is. There's like, sometimes it doesn't click till way down the road.
Yeah.
Like, and that's, it's like, your experience is a little different because it was like the top, and now it's like trying to figure out what's next.
Yeah, for sure. But it's also, I've had a lot of great conversations where it's not too different, where someone was in a career for 10 years and they finally realized that they don't want to be doing this anymore and they have to do a pivot. And, I've talked to a person just this week where they said, at 34, I started this new path and it's been the best thing I ever did. And honestly, just having that perspective, gives me such ease. Not a lot.
No, it's
some ease.
Temporary. I do.
Some ease.
Yeah.
That, I think, especially nowadays, right? You see so much success around you, whether it's on social media or whatever. You see all this greatness.
Yeah.
But you rarely do you ever, have to look back and see all the tough times and, crap that they had to put themselves through to get there.
Yeah.
And, my sister said this to me one time, is that in today's society, everyone wants to do something sexy every day and post it on their social media.
Yeah.
But sometimes you just got to be okay with just okay.
I agree.
And getting by and just doing your job.
Yep.
And, that's fine. And that's something that I have to always constantly remind myself, is that just to be back in the process of just taking one step forward.
Yep.
Nothing's going to happen where I'm now making the money that I want and having the success that I once had.
Yep.
It's just a continuation. And, I'm constantly reminded around people around me, and, looking at greatness, looking at reframing greatness in that way of just being in that transitional process and being able to create something out of yourself. I think that's a level of greatness that I really drawing on now.
Do you, can you find the parallels to like, I have this idea in my head that, the year after the Olympics seems like a total grind, because it's like, you're 4 years out to the next show.
Yeah.
I feel like the first year and the second year after the Olympics, I'm sure there's some days where you really got to summon the energy to do these things. It's not all highlights every day. It's like, there's some work to be done here.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely there's what we call like the Olympic hangover.
Oh God.
It's that first year. And what's funny is that in that first year after the games, that's usually when you'll see the glimpse of the next, who's going to be good next. Right.
Just who's got it. Like
who's got the next,
yep.
Who's got that thing for the next games. And that was perfectly the case after the 2014 games, when, I didn't have the greatest season after, but we had this other Canadian kid, Laurent Debreuil, who's, wanted to be one of the best Canadian speed skaters to ever live. He came on that season and really established himself as a force to be reckoned with. And, he took his Olympic disappointment of not making the team in 2014 and just like turned it around and, went and ran with it.
Yep.
But yeah, definitely those 2 years after the games, it's, you're kind of fighting. Depending on what point you are in your career. I think after 2014, I was still motivated to really be at the rink every day.
Yep.
But definitely after the 2018 games, speed skating had kind of lost a bit of that fun that I loved about it. And it was a really big process between my teammates and my coaches of trying to create that fun environment again. And there was days where I'm just like, holy smokes, here we go again.
Mm-hmm.
Where opposed to like, for me from 2010 to 2014, it was like, I was excited every day to get to the Oval. And even, a bit of that from 2014 to 2018. But it's definitely like the one thing that I really pulled myself is like, I am so motivated by accountability and being accountable to people and not wanting to let them down, whether it be my teammates, my coaches, my staff.
Yeah.
That's what really pulled me out of bed. Also reminding myself of those goals.
Yeah.
It made any day that was like, kind of like, oh my gosh, to like, all right, light that fire under your seat and let's go.
Mm-hmm. Do you, other opportunities like post career, whether it's, like be on TV or like, just like, did you know those opportunities are going to show up, or was it, is it still surprising to you what you get introduced to?
Yeah, a little bit surprising. Definitely the reality TV show caught me a bit off guard. But at the same time, it's like, and this is what I say to all kind of the next generation of athletes is never say no to a meeting, a cup of coffee, a drink, a meal with somebody, and always just present the best of yourself because you never know where that's going to go. And it was that case throughout my career of getting sponsors where I had been out in an event and I shared an experience or a drink with someone who knew the person at marketing, and they brought me in to be a part of the campaign, the sponsors campaign. And after sport, it's like I got connected with CBC because of an interview I did in 2014 with Adrian Arsenault. And it's like always be the best, always present the best of yourself and be kind and to people around you, and just be excited that you're given the opportunity to be in front of these people because you never know where that's going to go. And so in a sense, does it surprise me? No. In the sense that like I've met a lot of great people, and I think I've made a lot of great relationships that, if something happens, it's going to be like, okay, where can that go? But there's a sense of like, I had no idea I was going to be in HR consulting as of 4 months ago, but having that platform as a speed skater and, having that platform as a speed skater got me a job where I got laid off to the point where I made a LinkedIn post where this HR professional saw it and wanted to bring me on with her. And you know what? I was just like, let's do it. I'm figuring it out. And she's been a great mentor to me. And it's, like I said earlier, there's a lot of parallels in HR to sport, and that's what I'm loving.
Do you, all that, like, you said the thing about like, talking to the next generation about taking meetings and taking all those things. As soon as you said that, I was like, clip that idea. Is it, if you get to mentor the next generation, you have opportunities to speak in front of them, and you say these things, like, does it hit? Do people really understand what that actually means? Like, present yourself in a way that resonates?
I think some have gotten it. Right. Some of the people that I've talked to, hopefully they've kind of, a little bit of it has resonated. I've realized that not everyone is the same as me. And the sense that I'm pretty comfortable with meeting people and just trying to create genuine relationships. I think that's one of the things I'm pretty good at. And some people, that's just not who they are. So I think, but it's being able to have that, provide that perspective for them that, okay, like if we can just fix one or two things, not even fix, but like if we can just learn 1-2 things, it'll help you so much in sport and out of sport. And hopefully that's one of those little pieces has hit for that next generation. I just, I think back and I look at some of the teammates that I have, taken under my wing. I think looking at those skaters, they've grasped that a little bit. And for the ones that maybe it was, didn't hit as well for, hopefully they learned something else from me if it was not that. But that's kind of the hard part. I even, I was about to go mentor because, I was learning through that process too, of just how to try to lead people and what to give them and what to offer. Maybe I give terrible advice. Like, who knows? But, I'm just lucky to be given that platform to, at least try to make an impact.
Yep. The go back to school thing.
Yeah.
What's got your attention to go down that path?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if I'm going to be completely candid.
Yeah, man.
Completely candid. It's going to make my mom so happy. It's going to make my mom so happy to get that degree. But also, I think I've learned a lot of lessons and learned a lot of things through my sporting career that are so anecdotal.
Yeah.
That I would love the foundational, theoretical, and just like base knowledge of what made those things resonate so much for me in sport. I think that'll give me a little bit of more of a leg to stand on as I transition to business or whatever the next endeavor may be. And it's just that pursuit of just trying to be a better person. Like, I'd never consider myself somebody that knows everything. So I just want to try to absorb and get as much knowledge as I can to try to make an impact in my community so I can help the next generation out. That's why I went back to school on top of making my mom happy. But I think I'm very motivated in the sense that like, it's going to give me the tools to unlock a lot of the foundational work that I made in my athletic career.
You'll be able to tie what you learned in sport to the real, like I've done it before, the real world, the corporate thing.
Yeah. I hate using the real world because it's like,
sport is real, but it's like into the corporate workforce.
Yeah.
It's probably a better way to say it.
I don't even remove like the business world is no joke. To be involved in it is not for the faint of heart.
Yeah.
So, to be in it, I just want the confidence to be able to go into, we're going to say the real world because it's daunting. As an athlete, we lived in such a bubble.
Yeah.
We lived in, watching Steve Messler's episode, we lived in Disneyland.
Yeah.
It was great every day. And so now to take it outside, it's like now we're, we lived in a fishbowl and now we're in the ocean. So now, you're just trying to get as much knowledge to become a bigger fish. So you don't get eaten alive.
Totally.
Yeah.
Do you set goals? Do you have a 3-year, a 5 and a 10? And do you?
Oh gosh. Yeah. I mean, I used to, right?
Yeah.
But it would always center out the Olympics.
Yeah.
Now it's more philosophical for me of just like, I want to be happy. I want to be stable. I want to be doing something that I ultimately love and fires me up.
Yeah.
I don't want to say the same way as sport, but similar sport where I wake up and just pumped to get out of bed and have that accountability to people around me that rely on me. I think that is the foundation of like where my goals are set right now. What it actually looks like, I'm still a bit unclear and crafting on a day-to-day basis. But I think that's just the natural person in me where I'm like just so motivated by what I can accomplish that the goal setting portion is definitely second nature, although it's tough sometimes when you have no idea what it looks like.
Where you can't even set the goalpost.
Exactly. And that's the work that I'm trying to do in school is trying to set the goalposts almost for myself is like trying to really nail down what this next act will look like and, tapping into my networks and seeing who I can talk to, what I accomplish, what we can create. I think that'll help me, give an idea of like where I want to go. Dude. There's a couple of ideas stirring in my head, but they're kind of in the back pocket right now.
I think what I love about this conversation is that there's so many things you said along the way that just have such a connection point to outside of sport.
Yeah.
Which is like, I think when you're in it, it's kind of tough to see. But, for me, like when I said I got my legs under me at 34, it's interesting. I was like a digital marketing manager at 34. And I was like, oh, I'm finally got the thing that I want. Right.
Yeah.
And now when I look back on it, I was there for like 9 years and I look back and I'm like, that's just a stepping stone to what this is right now, which is really cool. But I'm sure in 10 years, I'll look back at this moment and be like, it was cool, but this is really fucking cool.
Yeah. And I think that's like great perspective to have is that like everything right now feels like it needs to be planned and perfect.
Yeah.
When, probably in 10 years right now, say in 2 years, I say, oh, I finally figured it out.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
I guarantee you 10 years, 8 years from that point, I'll be like, I had nothing figured out back then.
Yep.
So it's just an ever evolving process where like, even like approaching races or really hard training sessions, where I was looked at it as like, holy smokes, this is it. Whether it be the Olympic Games, the Olympic game experience. The one thing that I kind of realized after the first Olympics when, pressure started to get a bit high and there was expectations on me with a lot more money and funding behind me is that this is going to happen, a result's going to happen, and I'm still alive, And like, that's whatever the result is. And whether it be my legs are aching as I'm sitting on the side, the mats trying to catch my breath. The first thing, whether it was a bad race, and I was like, well, that wasn't great, but at least I'm still alive. And you had the opportunity for the next day to do something great. So that's kind of my approach right now is that I'm, speed skating happened. I'm still alive and I still have hopefully a lot more life to live and hopefully still get to do cool things and be a, witness greatness. Yeah. If you want to tie it around that, it's that I just like to be, drawn to great people. Yeah. And that's why I was so excited to be on this podcast because I just think this is a great thing, showcasing amazing Calgarians and the excellence that's in this city. Yep. And there's so much to be inspired by. Yeah, there really is, man. There's some spectacular people. Unbelievable people. The cool thing about this experience is now that you and I connected, I'm going to watch this, right? But I think the cool thing is, to your point, like in 8 years from now, or whatever the number is, to look back on this moment and just to have this little snapshot in time. Yeah. To then know exactly what was being talked about and thought about to then where you actually are in 8 years. Yeah. Like wherever you are, it's going to be worth a beer. It's going to be worth something because it's going to be really cool. It's going to be something at least to laugh at in 8 years, right? Like I hate watching old interviews of myself after when I got home from the 2014 Olympics. It's like, you have no idea what's in store for you, buddy. It's so true. And that's the blessing and the curse of capturing moments in time on camera. I know. But like, it's funny. My she hates it when I call her this, but my boss didn't do a background check on me because she just did Google, and she just watched all my old interviews and everything that was captured on social and all the news articles. Yeah. And she was like, "Oh, I guess he hasn't been into too much trouble." There's no. He hasn't a red flag. He's still talking. Exactly. Thanks for doing this. Absolutely. Anytime. This was awesome. Incredible. I end the show with one question. When I say Calgary, where's your head go? Well, for me, Calgary's just home. I've been around to a lot of amazing cities, but, whenever I got a little homesick or, I just turn on Alberta Bound and listen to my headphones and just think of what an amazing community we have here in Calgary where, I think we're a small town with big dreams, another Paul Brandt song. Mm-hmm. But, there's so much that we can accomplish. And, Calgary's in a bit of a second act in itself. And so I love to be part of that journey together with the city and to see where we can take us because I think we can achieve a lot with the people that we have in the city because the community is so tight-knit. Yeah, I agree, man. That's if somebody asked me that, the first word out of my mouth is home. Absolutely. It's just like, it summarizes everything. Yeah. Thanks again, man. Yeah. Really appreciate it. And I'm not bullshitting you, dude. You were on my list to get to. I was like, how am I going to get to this guy? And I put these names on the list, right? And I'd be like, I don't know. It's on there. Honestly, dude, there's one column that's all these friends. And then there's another column that's like the what ifs and maybe. So it's, oh gosh, I hope I was worth the wait. Completely. 128. I will remember this one. So thanks for taking the time. Yeah. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.